What's going on, guys? Austin here, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the extra points post Week 7 power rankings. I should say Week 7. So let's take a look at these bottom 6 teams. We've got the Lions, Jets, and Texans. 2 combined wins between them. A lot of blowouts, a big negative point differential. Not really much to look forward to there. The Dolphins, they've had some fight in them early, but as of late, they've had a lot of inexplicable losses with a couple blowouts in the middle. Jaguars, they recently got a win against the Dolphins a couple weeks ago, and they were on a bye this last week, but they move up just on account of some other teams being so bad that they get to move down. And of course, the Washington football team, who I'm keeping them at 27 because a 10 or so whatever point loss to the Packers is pretty much about where they're at. I take a look at stat on the side. In his last 2 starts, Tua Tagovailoa is averaging 310 passing yards per game with a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, a 102.7 passer rating on 75% completion percentage. So those of you who think that the league is out on Tua, I would slow down on that just for now. Here we have like the bottom of the middle or the top of the bottom, however you want to call it. These are teams that might have a chance at messing up some playoff spots, but I doubt they could ever make it into the playoffs. You've got the 2-win Giants recently with the win over the Panthers, who I still think they're a good team. They just inexplicably they're just shooting themselves in the foot with lots of drops and terrible offensive line play. The Eagles, who kind of let things get out of hand early against the Raiders, I thought they could be competitive in that game. I didn't necessarily think they'd win, but I thought it'd be a lot closer. The Bears, who have no idea how to protect Justin Fields. As you can see, he's getting sacked at a rate of 3.7 sacks per game, which amounts to 63 sacks over a 17-game season, which is just an atrocious number. Didn't move the Denver Broncos because a 3-point loss on the road to Cleveland. I mean, that's about what you would expect. I thought that there were a coin flip to win the game anyway, and Vegas would say that they're a coin flip to win the game on a neutral site. So that tells you all you need to know. The Falcons, they recently came away with a pretty decent win against Miami. Matt Ryan played really well. Kyle Pitts is really starting to come into his own. He's starting to become a real focal point of the offense. And I don't like moving teams on buys, like I said, with the Jaguars, but there were so many teams that just bumped up barely above the Steelers here, so they had to move down one. So here you can see that this is like my bottom of the barrel potential playoff teams. I don't think any of these teams will make the playoffs, honestly, except, and this is going to sound odd, except for the Panthers. I think they can turn it around, but the way that they're playing right now, it's just atrocious. You should not lose by whatever it was, 25 points to the New York Football Giants. The Vikings, I got to keep them where they're at. The Browns, same thing as the Broncos down below. They did pretty much exactly what I expected them to. The Seahawks, I took them down just a notch because I thought that if they were in the game, it would have been more favorable to them, that they played better late than the Saints do, even without Russell Wilson. I mean, they've still got a ton of great players. They didn't really get Tyler Lockett involved in the game, which I thought was kind of silly, especially considering DK Metcalf, aside from one lucky breakaway touchdown, DK Metcalf was just covered up the entire game. And then the San Francisco 49ers, who going into the season I had as probably around a top 12 team, and they've disappointed as of late. I thought that the Colts were going to win the game. So -4 might be a little bit of an overreaction, but we'll see. Interesting fact about the Browns is that their leading rusher, Nick Chubb, he averages 5.8 yards per rush, and he constitutes about 45% of Cleveland's rushing yards, but all of the other rushers on the entire Cleveland Browns backfield account for 5.4 yards per attempt. So Cleveland's 170.4 rushing yards per game leads the NFL. And if you include the quarterback stats, their rushing yards per attempt is 5.3, and both of those stats lead the NFL. Up here, these are my could make the playoffs. In Kansas City and New England's case, they might not. But they also might end up really messing up some higher ranked playoff teams if they play them later on in the season. Like, Kansas City could really mess up the Chargers, and New England could really mess up Buffalo. I'm bringing the Raiders back up. I guess I may have overreacted. I don't believe in Derek Carr. I think this might just be like a magical season for him because he's never been really that good. He's also never really been that good on the deep ball, and for some reason, he's good, and he's good deep this year. The Saints +3 because they finally got Alvin Kamara involved in both the passing and the rushing game. And Jameis Winston really starting to kind of take the reins of this offense. I mean, he was not necessarily calling out guys on the sideline, but, after a couple miscommunications with some wide receivers, he's basically like, hey, guys, all we need to do is be on the same page. Like, it's not that hard. And it really showed that he's kind of taking ownership of this team as his. I like the Colts. They're finally getting healthy on their lines, and I think they could be a top 10 team if they're healthy. And Carson Wentz is the guy who I've always said he was, and so I'm glad to see that he's coming back healthy. Interesting about the Chiefs right here, Patrick Mahomes is tied with rookie Zach Wilson for the most interceptions in the NFL at 9, and he leads all players with 13 total turnovers. This is the contenders, teams who could really ruin playoff games for the next 5, but I doubt that any of these teams could win the Super Bowl. I would say that my Bengals are my AFC favorites for now, and that's projection. Right now, if the playoffs began, I don't think that they're a top 5 team, but we'll see. The Bengals, who I have to put above the Ravens because they just went into Baltimore and beat the brakes off of them. The Cowboys, I haven't changed. I don't like moving teams on a bye. Same thing with the Chargers right there. We'll see how the Chargers respond after that nasty loss to the Ravens a couple weeks ago. The Titans get to move up too, based on, they've beaten the Chiefs this year and they've beaten the Bills. We'd really like to forget about those losses to about that loss to the Jets. And I'm sure that they would much rather play the Cardinals right now than they did in week 1. So we'll see what they can become later on in the season. Derrick Henry this year is on pace for 2,338 scrimmage yards, which is the most in the NFL. It's going to be the most in the NFL this year by a lot and last year by a lot. And it will be the most since Christian McCaffrey in 2019. And he's on pace for 23 scrimmage touchdowns, which will be the most in the NFL since 2007 when Randy Moss had his 23 receiving touchdowns. All right. And on this side, obviously, we've got the Rams. Can't really pull the Rams down. I mean, they're 7-0. They're playing great. Or maybe they're 6-0. I don't remember if they had their bye or not. I'm sure they're 7-0. And, I mean, they're playing great. They're beating up on the teams that they should. They even went to Los Angeles and beat the Rams, who I have as the Super Bowl favorites. The Packers, I didn't really move them, same as I didn't move Washington because they pretty much did exactly what I'd expect. The Bills get to move up one on account of the Ravens getting brought down so far. So even though they were on a bye, I think the Ravens have a little bit too much to work on for them to be considered in this top 5. And the same thing with the Buccaneers. They just mollywopped the Bears, which, I mean, it was a pretty good matchup for them. Tampa Bay has an excellent run defense, and that's the only thing that Chicago does well. That, and they have great pass rushers. And Chicago, I don't think Chicago has an offensive line. I think that they're just starting a quarterback, a running back, and 2 wide receivers and a tight end. I don't think they're putting those 5 guys out to block right now. Interesting about the Rams, who, like I said, I have as the Super Bowl favorites, the number 2 team in the NFL right now today. They are the least penalized offense in the NFL. And as far as Matthew Stafford goes, he's averaging 9 yards per attempt, which is second in the NFL, only to Joe Burrow, who's averaging 9.2. And this is out of guys who have actually played multiple games. I'm not talking about a one-time pass from Justin Jefferson for 70 yards. That doesn't count, obviously. And he has a 116.7 passer rating, which is second in the NFL, only to Kyler Murray, who has a 116.8 passer rating. So this is the top 5 right here. All right, guys, thanks for watching that video. Be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And be sure to be on the lookout for our other videos coming up soon. We're going to be having our 5-minute fantasy from week 7's hits and misses.